I don't really, because you have a tendency to split it. Just go down a little bit below and rehang them. That's all you have to do. Okay, and I'll show you what I did for that, so I didn't have to mess with that first stitch, getting it off the machine. I'll show you that in just a second. Now what I'm doing, this is a mock fisherman rib. I'm picking up 2 ladders, skipping the first one, grabbing the second one. Picking up 2 ladders, skipping the first, grabbing the second. Oops. You don't want to grab, you want to grab the whole thread, not just pieces of the thread. Now the previous blanket I worked on, which was my circular one, I ran out of yarn, so I'll be back with that as soon as I get some more yarn. Okay, now what I did, I laid my block down because I don't want to go past my block, and I just pulled it forward so that the stitch is behind the latch. I don't want it off the needle, I just want it resting on the tip of the needle. Okay. There we go. And I don't want to go past where my block is. That's why I laid it up behind the nubs. Okay, now I take my block and I put it between the nubs that I pulled forward and the green bar, and just slowly sit it in there so that the thread is still behind the latches. But all I have to do is give a little push or a tug and it releases it. And then I tug down and just release this so I can ladder it back up. Now when I get this done, I will do the soft cast off, which is kind of like a crocheted cast off. You want to make sure your work is on your right hand side because I'm going from left to right. I will put my latch tool. Now if you don't like these hanging out like this, what I've done, I have a ruler I broke into 3 pieces, 18-inch, then I broke one of them into half again, and I just set the ruler in there. And I have my other piece and just set that there. This way where it snapped kind of fits into it, kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. Okay, just give a tug. Sometimes a tug doesn't always work, but if you run your finger up it, that does. Now when I get closer to removing this portion of the blanket off the machine, I will remove my cast on comb and weights because I don't want to put stress on my stitches here. Now what I did when I finished up this last stripe, I knitted a row and then I did 1 row of ribbing so I could tell where my ribbing starts. Alright, that doesn't look right. Where my ribbing should start for the rib, for the band. That's what this is that you see right here. See, I'm not... And just finish it all up. get back to the round afghan. And I will get back to my hat that I started. And that one was another one I ran out of yarn on because I started it with scrap yarn. In fact, I may work on that a little bit after I get this blanket done. Oop, no biggie. I'll just carefully just pull half of it so I don't mess with that other row. You have to be careful you don't pull the whole thing. Now when I first started this, I stuck bobby pins at the bottom and undid several rows at a time. I have since found out that that changes the tension of your work, and you really don't want to change the tension of your work. So I do it singularly now. I do just one row at a time. You stick your needle in. Actually, you could probably, if you wanted to make a latch tool and didn't have clothespins and had polymer clay, you can make a nice, comfortable handle with your polymer clay. Which I may do that. I am forever dropping my tools. Alright, now remember we spoke earlier how if you got it, I should have ended up with just one, which what that's telling me is somewhere, yep, right down here, I did not pick up the correct sequence. So I'm going to go back down in my first hole, undo this, and you'll see what, kind of release those a little bit. Okay, yeah, now this should come up even. So you don't want to do too many at once. I like doing about 10 rows when you're doing the sides, so you can keep track of how many you're doing. So if you end up with one, like I did, I knew somewhere I picked up the wrong one. See, now I got two there, and that's what I was expecting. See, just one left. Now when I knitted this last row, I changed my key plate to a 4 so that I'd have a nice big stitch there. Because when I do my cast off, I want it nice and loose. Let's see, what shall we... Now this is about halfway done for the blanket. I'm not going to film the next blanket, the next square of this blanket, because that would be redundant. Just watch these again. But when I start the 4th square, I will be back at that point. If you want the pattern, you can go to my blog spot, which I'll include at the end of this. Alright, I did it again. Right here's where I did it. Can you see the difference in the stitches? It helps if you can notice what you're doing. Okay, let it focus.